Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Master Advisor. Today is October 23rd. I hope everyone's having a great day and has had a great week. Happy Halloween a week ahead. I won't see you next week, so happy Halloween for everybody. We have a really great travel advisor with us today, a really great topic to get to. We're going to be talking about group travel through the next 45 minutes or so. I'm really excited to introduce our advisor and introduce our sponsor for today. I just want to make a couple of quick housekeeping announcements, and then we can sort of get this show on the road. I see so many people already in the chat. Hello to everybody. Hello, Pascal, Paula, Anna Marie, Lori, Sheila. If you have questions or comments throughout the next 45 minutes, for our guests, please drop them in the chat. We'll hopefully be able to incorporate them into the discussion over the next, again, 45 minutes or so. Don't be shy. Any questions or comments in there, we love to incorporate them into the discussion. So drop your thoughts in the chat. I know I say that every week, but just want to give everyone a quick reminder of that. Also, another quick reminder, which I do pretty consistently at the front of these programs, is just if you have some time, if you like these videos, if you want to rewatch this episode, or previous episodes of Master Advisor, we're going to drop the link to our YouTube in the chat. That's going to be the home to all of that content. So if you have to log off early today, or if you come in late, or if you have to take a call and you want to mute us, please feel free, go ahead. You can try to catch up on whatever you might have missed through that YouTube link that Tom dropped in the chat right there. One more reminder, I do want to just give a shout out for our next episode that we scheduled. We're about a month and a half ahead of our next scheduled episode, but it will be December 4th. We might have one in the meantime, but right now our only confirmed episode for the rest of the year is December 4th. We would really love to see you there. We love seeing people and all the advisors, all these amazing people on these programs pretty consistently. So if you do have the time, please go ahead and check out the link Tom had. Register. Join us December 4th. We'd always love to see you all on these programs. Okay. All right. So with that all out of the way, I do want to introduce our sponsor. We're really happy to have a sponsor for today's episode. It's someone I know we've had before. I'm really happy to welcome Kelsey Marchetti, the Virtual Training and Events Managers for Collette. Kelsey, it's always such a pleasure to speak with you, to have you on these programs. Thank you so much for sort of kicking us off here today.
Yeah, thank you. It's always an honor to be here. I always feel so special and thrilled when I can come on and speak to your audience. For those of you who are not familiar with Collette, we believe travel should be transformative, immersive, and expertly guided. For over 108 years, we've been crafting experiences that connect people to the world and to each other. So with that said, today I am truly honored to introduce someone who reflects that mission. She is an independent travel advisor with Oasis Network and a standout member of our Travel Advisor Council, where she helps us stay focused on what advisors really need, which is insight, support, and smart solutions. She is known for her enthusiasm, her curiosity, and her generosity in sharing what she learns. She leans in, she absorbs everything, and lifts others up in the process. And she doesn't just talk about travel, she lives it. She traveled with us recently in Croatia, in Portugal, and on our Islands of New England tour, all with groups. So please join me in welcoming Kathy Cardott.
Hi there, Kelsey. Hi, Dan.
Hi, Kathy.
Great to be here. Thank you.
Yes. So great to have you, Kelsey. Thank you again. I know you're going to be hanging out. You might be in the chat. So if anyone has questions for Kelsey, maybe you guys can connect in the chat. But Kelsey, always so great to see you. And thanks for kicking us off today.
Yeah, I'll be in the chat. So let me know if you need anything.
All right, cool. All right, Kathy, I know Kelsey gave us a little intro to you and your business. I know we're going to sort of talk about groups for this episode. I just sort of like to start off these with just taking a pulse of what advisors are seeing in the industry. I was hoping you could sort of tell us a little bit about like what you're hearing from clients when it comes to demand or like trends, destination trends, any types of travel that might be particularly engaging for your clients now. I'm just curious, like, where's your business, how things are going, like sort of a general pulse of things.
Sure. You know, a funny thing is I've had a lot of requests lately for Europe and Hawaii. maybe even more so that than a lot of other things. People are just flocking to Europe. They want to go to Europe, whether it's land or river cruise or ocean cruises, but Europe is big. And then Hawaii. Hawaii has been big. And another trend that I've seen that I'm really excited about, because it not only is a trend that I'm excited about, but it works well with groups, is I've had a lot of single ladies reach out to me. That has been so exciting for me. A lot of women who either don't have someone to travel with, or have lost a partner, and that makes me really, really excited. And I'm looking at that as one of a next step in my group travel. I've already worked with lots of single ladies in the past, but I'm really excited about it right now and launching some new projects for that.
Yeah, it's so funny, Kathy. I've heard that from so many people. The solo female travel segment is really taking off. Like, suppliers and advisors seem to be getting so much interest. I know a lot of suppliers are building itineraries for this particular type of travel. Like, it seems like we're almost at the end of 25, so I'm going to have to do some 2026 predictions. I think that's going to be one of the biggest types of travel for 2026.
I do too.
Yeah. All right. Well, so you mentioned, Kathy, your Oasis. I know you're based in Texas. Let's start on this conversation a little bit about how you got into groups. I know that it's not, I guess it's fairly recent, like comparably, but it's been, you said 2019 is when you really started digging into this type of travel.
That's right. And I'd always wanted to do a group. I have to mention my good friend Shirley with Oasis. I went to her. She's a group expert. She's wonderful. She does a lot of groups with Collette. I went to her and I said, Shirley, I really want to get into groups. And she goes, do it. Just start out. Pick a place you want to go. Know that you're going to go, no matter whether you have 2 people or 20 people. And I did it. In 2019, I launched a group cruise on Royal Caribbean, and ended up having about 8 couples. It was the very first group I had ever escorted. I don't escort every single group I put together because I'd never be home. But I put that group together, escorted it. My husband came with. It just lit my fire. It really did. I discovered all the benefits of doing groups. I understood the challenges of doing groups, and as the years have gone by, I've started perfecting it. So I think since 2019, I've reached a point where I think I have a pretty good idea of how to do a group, and it's getting easier and easier. But if anybody wants to get started with groups, do one. Just pick something, plan a good year out, in my opinion, and know that you're going to go, even if you only have a few people going. Now, there's a way to get around that. We can talk about that down the road, but still, just pick something and go for it. But I love it.
Let's so I know there's a lot of people on this call or watching us who've done groups, and some people who maybe haven't at all. And I have just a couple questions for maybe the segment who's on here with us who maybe haven't done so many groups. You say like you wanted to get into groups in 2019. And I know this is probably pretty obvious for so many advisors, but like, what are the benefits of building a business around group travel? And then how many people generally qualify as a group?
Okay. So the benefits there's so many. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to get into groups. I wanted to be able to just handle a group of people at one time. It's emails out to everybody, not individual emails out to everybody. Basically, most of the same information goes out to everybody. It really scales your efficiency. So it does make your job a little bit easier in that respect. I loved building the camaraderie, and that's something I could talk forever about. But everybody is like-minded. everybody's wanting to go to this destination. The information that I email out is all based on that destination. Of course, commission-wise, you can earn a TC when you're doing groups. Sometimes, depending on what you're doing and what supplier you're working with, it can be a great commission. There's a huge benefit from doing groups is repeat business.
Yeah,
Definitely. Now, not everybody's going to come back and travel with you, but there's a very good chance that people are going to come back to you. A very good chance.
well, so the camaraderie seems to be a big thing with groups, particularly when you mentioned like repeat business, like building that camaraderie, building that bond is a reason for people to travel. Like if they see someone in a group that they're friends with or they have built a relationship with going on another group trip, they seem to like, it's a draw for them it excites them and makes it more enticing to go on another group trip. So I assume like the camaraderie, and I know you mentioned you're pretty passionate about the camaraderie, but let's talk a little bit about that. Like what kind of bonds are built on these group trips?
That is my favorite part of groups. I'm a people person. I love it. I get really excited about the people that are going, creating bonds. I do Zooms with the groups, and pretty soon, somebody says, "Oh, I noticed you have a book on your bookshelf there in the background. Do you enjoy history?" And those people start to connect. And I just love, whoops, I don't know what that is, but I just absolutely love all of that, that building of relationships. Now, I have to do the same. I have to make sure I'm always positive. I never let anything negative come out of my mouth. I'm very careful about that.
Okay.
I do tell my clients on our Zooms, we are doing this to share a great cultural experience, a great travel experience. So let's avoid politics. Let's avoid anything that's going to cause controversy. And it's been super successful, very successful. I've never had anybody in 8 years, 7, 8 years, I've never had anybody not fit in because they said something negative against someone else. So the camaraderie is wonderful. Years ago, when I first started groups, I had 2 ladies join a group. They didn't know each other. They lived in different states. They had absolutely no connection whatsoever. And from that very first time they traveled together years ago, they've become best friends. They've ended up traveling on several different trips together. That's what I love to see. That is absolutely what I love to see. And that's only one story of so many that I could tell you about the camaraderie that groups share. On our Collette trips, we have our welcome dinners everybody starts to get to know each other. And then we have our dinners together, often several nights during our trip, and we love those dinners. We laugh. I hear laughing. I hear stories being told. I see people showing pictures of their children and grandchildren to each other. So it's wonderful. It gets me so excited to see people connecting like this.
Yeah, and that's such a wonderful part of being able to organize these groups. I know a lot of people who love group travel and get Christmas cards from people they've spent time on groups with. So I think it really is like, I mean, being in this business, you love those connections, you love making people happy, and I think it's just such a unique way to do it. So Kathy, we have a bunch of questions in the chat, and I know some of these we'll get to. Like Maureen, we're going to talk about the headaches in a second, but you mentioned the tour conductor or the TCs. And Anna Marie Brown, who is asking about if you could tell us a little bit about what a TC is, and then how is it beneficial for you?
Sure. So when you organize a group, depending on how many people you have joining the group, you will earn something called a tour conductor. On a cruise, it's typically, on the average, it's 8 cabins, 2 people in a cabin, 16 people total, and you earn 1 cruise fare. That's called a tour conductor credit. on a land tour. It can vary with each supplier, but a good number to remember, Anna Marie, on an average, just keep in mind on an average, roughly about 16 people will allow you as an agent, will allow you to earn some money basically towards paying for your part of the trip. So that's what a tour conductor credit is. I've planned many groups where I didn't reach that. I still went anyways. I still went because it's somewhere I wanted to go, and I loved the people that were going. I still earned my commission, so that was wonderful. That was wonderful. And then I have other groups I've put together where I've earned sometimes 2 or 3 tour conductor credits.
Yeah, and I know we're jumping around a bunch here, Kathy, but I guess just along those lines, I know when we spoke earlier in the week, you mentioned that there's a lot of groups that you will escort yourself, and some groups, like, you're getting more comfortable with not escorting groups and just building the trip for them. I was hoping you'd tell us a little bit about that, like about pros and cons for escorting a group, and we could talk about not escorting after. But yeah, I'm just curious,
Sure.
What does escorting a group really get you?
Okay, so what escorting a group means is that I am going with the group. Now, it doesn't mean that I'm the tour guide by any means. Collette, Globus, Trafalgar, they all provide great tour guides. The tour guides are fabulous because once you arrive at the destination, they take over. A sigh of relief because I don't really have to do anything. That's when my work ends and my enjoyment begins. But escorting a group means that I am going with the group physically. And fortunately, I have a wonderful husband who loves going with also. He's a very silent partner, but he does all the great things like holding doors open and being at the end of the group to make sure we don't lose anybody. So I'm so blessed to have him. But that is what escorting a group is. Like I said, I don't lead the group as a tour guide. I don't do that. The tour guides for example, with Collette, those tour guides, they're the experts on the destination. Now, not escorted. I'll give you an example. I had someone come to me that wanted to do a Greece group to Greece. It's a religious themed tour. And I promoted it, put it out there for group travel. I did say to him up front, I said, if the group has 16 or more, I didn't tell him why, 16 was the magic number, but if it did, I would go with. But I said, if it is under 16, would you consider yourself the group leader? And he said immediately yes, but I'm not expecting him to do any more than I'll give him the list of everybody's information so that he can be the responsible one, so to speak. He'll get to know everybody through our Zooms. He will be the friendly, outgoing one, which he is. He's outgoing, and he will be the person that is in charge, but not having a lot of responsibility, especially when he gets there. When he gets there, boom, tour guide takes over.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, like it seems like a big title, but yeah, it's something people are comfortable doing. We have so many great questions in the chat, Kathy. So
Good.
we're going to grab these because I mentioned this is a good way for us to sort of go through it. Peggy just says she's done group cruises every February for the past 9 years. She's a solo traveler, and this gives me like-minded people, which I guess goes back to the camaraderie point you were making. Like it does,
Yes,
it does allow you to build relationships as you travel, and I know that's important for so many people.
absolutely.
So I think this is a good one. Sarah and Kathy Evans sort of have a similar question. Sarah asks about finding groups. So how are you finding groups to start building? And then Kathy asks something along the similar lines. She said, how do you attract more people to your group? So let's start with finding groups. Like how are you building these groups? How are you finding clients and then starting to attract people to fill those slots?
Well, I'll give you a few examples. because I don't know that I have a straight answer for that, but I will tell you, for example, I had 2 couples come to me that wanted to do a Mediterranean cruise next year. And with Norwegian Cruise Line, if you have 5 couples, that's called an affinity group. And I thought, well, 2 couples is a start. So I set up an affinity group with Norwegian with 2 couples. That has grown to 22 couples.
Oh my God.
22 couples, 44 people so far. I didn't know, Sarah and Kathy, if I would just have the 2 couples or if that would grow. But the advantage was when I set that up as the affinity group, it reduced the cost by 15%, and only I could get that price because I set it up like that. So what I did is I just put it out there with my MailChimp and on Facebook. And I told people, listen, I've got this cruise going. I can get you a lower price than what you'll see online. Pretty soon it built. Those 2 couples ended up telling maybe just one or 2 other, but then somebody saw it on my Facebook page. They brought 5 couples with them, but it ended up growing and growing and growing. I just go back to what I said at the beginning of this. Take a leap. Don't try necessarily and have your whole group built. Don't try and have a whole entire group built and not take the risk. Take it. Try it and see. Other times I have had 4 or 5 couples or people. I don't want to just say couples, people. I've had 4 or 5 people come to me and say, we're thinking about such and such. We'd like to go to this destination. Can you help us put that together? Sometimes it just stays at those 10 people. Yeah. But if I get it started as a group, I feel free to add to it, and it's building on a group. So sometimes I've built a group and I never even knew it.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, I was going to say, you can get fabulous resources from your suppliers too. I love the brochure that Collette prints out that I can hand out to people. Some people still like paper and they still like to see something on paper, but any of them, the suppliers, they will offer you some kind of a link or something that you can send to people.
Yeah, they're your partners. I've posted a couple group sessions at our conferences, and the suppliers always think of themselves as partners for building these groups because it's beneficial for them as well. Yeah,
absolutely.
They'll go out of their way, and I'm sure, like we had Kelsey on, I'm sure Kelsey would say the same thing. But yeah, it just seems like the snowball kind of takes effect sometimes. I imagine somebody group, and one couple tells another couple, they tell another couple. But getting that, like you mentioned, the cruise rate, getting that affinity rate seems important because that's obviously attractive to join the group. But like, I know we're jumping around again, Kathy, but
it's okay.
So affinity groups, you mentioned you would have a requirement to have many couples or how many rooms or staterooms you had to book, for an affinity group. You started off with 2 couples, which is lower than the threshold. Like, I'm curious what happens if you don't meet the threshold? Like, what happens to the rate you're getting for the people who have already joined the affinity group, but may not have qualified for the number you need to get that booking?
Okay, so that leads to making extremely sure you know what your policies are at the very, very beginning. Some suppliers will still honor the rates. Some suppliers will still honor the rates that you quoted your clients and booked them at, which is wonderful. That's great because then you have no worries about that. Others will make it clear in the beginning that if you are building a group and you don't reach that number of people, and this particularly applies to some all-inclusives, if you don't reach that number, then no, you cannot give them the discount. So in that case, what I'll do especially for an all-inclusive, is I'll just start building the group and I'll start booking, but I won't let them know that there is going to be a nice little discount on top of it until we've reached that number, because
Okay.
I've made all the mistakes. Believe me, I've made them all. And one more thing, and this is probably jumping on to that next topic, but clarifying deadlines.
Okay.
So important. So important. You've got to make sure that whether it's with discounts and when if you're going to lose them for some reason, know what that date is, know what your cancellation date is for a full refund, or if there is no refund on a deposit, make sure you clarify that with your groups. If you have a seat reduction date, which means you need to get rid of rooms, you need to release them, have a very detailed timeline for everything, for knowing when discounts need to be applied, if you've reached that number, when you need to release rooms or cabins, and when final payments are due, and so forth. So that ties in a little bit with the beginning of that question.
Yeah, I know. So we talked about this earlier in the week, talking about like sometimes these groups flop. Not filling the group is a flop. Like, so is I imagine the most important advice is just to be aware of the deadlines, be aware of the requirements, and be ready to pivot or adjust if you realize that you're not going to hit those thresholds.
Absolutely. And I had a group planned for Switzerland 3 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. It was right shortly after COVID, I believe. And I probably stood on my head to try and get people to go in that group. I turned cartwheels. I did everything that you could think of. And I ended up with only 6 people, 2 of which were me and my husband. So to say the least, it wasn't really a huge benefit money-wise for me, unfortunately. But I did know from the very beginning I was going no matter what. And so that's something you need to think about. If you know from the very beginning that you're counting on that TC and you're not going unless you have it, you need to put something in a very initial email, just to note, if the group does not meet the meet 16, I will not be, however you want to phrase that. Yeah. Your agent will not be going, but you still will be meeting up with a wonderful group of people on the other end. So somehow clarify that.
Okay. All right. So I have a few more questions I definitely want to get to, but I do want to make sure we can manage all these questions in the chat. Again, if anyone has a question for Kathy or on groups, just drop them in there. Irma earlier in the conversation asked about managing groups or using software or programs like CRMs, like supplier, like do you use anything in particular to manage these groups, Kathy? Like you mentioned, like the email, you're sending one email instead of sending 10 different emails, but is there anything else you do to manage communication or to manage the actual booking?
I just probably use some very basic things. I have very detailed Excel spreadsheets of my own, and that works great for me. I also use, for myself, I use Airtable, and you can create cells in there specifically related. But I would say my greatest friend is my Excel. That is my greatest friend. Now,
Yeah.
I do send out group emails. I use MailChimp, and then I do Zoom with my groups, which I love that the most. I don't do that all the time, but at least 2 or 3 times during the course of the 6 months to a year before we're leaving, so that we can get to know each other's faces. But pretty basic things, but it's worked for me.
Yeah, I love Excel too. I don't think I'm ever, whatever software you want to give me, I don't think I'm ever giving up Excel. So
no, I can't either. I can't either.
All right, so we have another good question. This goes back to just escorting groups. Carrie Lynn asked earlier in the conversation, when you travel with your groups, how much work is that for you required on it? Whether it's on a cruise or a Collette, like a tour trip, like when you actually travel with your group, like are you on duty? Are you on call during these trips?
You know, I actually, when I get to the destination, like I said earlier, I'm like, it's, seriously, that's how I feel because I've prepared everyone so well before the departure. And you know, I've dealt with airplane issues, believe me. Oh, believe me. I've dealt with airplane issues, but as soon as I know everyone has reached the destination, they're there, and I know they're in that city and they're on their way to the hotel, whether they flew with me or they flew out of a different city, I almost feel just this huge relief. Okay, as far as a land tour, no, I don't necessarily. I'll get a few little questions here and there, but those are easy questions. Like, do you remember what time we need to be down in the lobby tomorrow morning? It's little things. I did have one lady that recently on one of my groups in Portugal, she did tear her meniscus the very first day.
Oh my God.
I know. She ended up staying the whole trip. She just hobbled a little bit, but the tour guide with Collette was fabulous. He bent over backwards to take care of her. He just was wonderful. And I really didn't feel like I had to play a part in any of it, but I did check on her often. You know, how are you doing? Is there anything I can help you with? But other than that, no. Now on the cruise, I probably had a little bit more work, but I don't even call it work so much. You know, on a cruise ship, we're all in different cabins all over the whole ship.
Yeah.
So with 4,000 people on one ship. So keeping in contact with everybody, you know, the cruise lines give you ways to do that with your phones and so forth. That was a little more of a challenge. I didn't feel though that it in any way made my trip any less enjoyable. But yes, I was definitely on more when I was on a cruise ship. Definitely. Okay. And there's a whole list of things I could tell you, and that would probably be a whole nother Zoom here. So we won't go into that. But by no means did I feel burdened or inconvenienced.
All right, amazing. So I see so many questions about air. I think we'll get to those maybe a little later. You mentioned cruises. We talked a little bit about tours, and then I think we had one mention of all-inclusives too. I know a lot of groups are inspired to travel differently. Like all these segments offer pros and cons for each group. I was curious if you tell us maybe like the pros and cons for each segment when it comes to a sales and management standpoint, Kathy. Like, do you have a favorite type of group travel you like to plan? Like, is one more attractive to you than another? Does one draw more attention from your clients than another?
My favorite, if I could choose just to do it, I would do the land tours. I love those the best. I love those because depending on the supplier you're working with, you can just package it all together. All of it, the air, the transfers, the land tour. The land tour will handle the optional excursions. That's the least amount of work for me, and the most convenient, and that's my favorite. I enjoy doing the cruise groups, but there's other things that tie into that. There's a lot more. It's like an octopus, and there's a lot more legs out there. The transfers, the excursions, which I don't typically book with the cruise company. The hotel, pre and post hotel, which you don't have to worry about that when you're doing a land tour. They'll take care of it if your client wants it. There's a lot more tentacles when you're doing a group cruise than there is when you're doing a land cruise. So I love the land ones. I would do those every day, but I enjoy the cruise ones too.
Okay. What about all inclusives? Is that a decently popular segment for groups?
It is. I personally don't do destination weddings. I have a wonderful associate, Misty. She handles those. She handles most of the groups, really all of the all-inclusive groups. She loves doing those. It's not my favorite thing. It's a little bit, for me, it's a little bit more challenging, but doing all-inclusive groups is it's a wonderful way to earn a great commission and possibly earn free or upgraded rooms for your clients.
Yeah. And then we have two other questions, I guess, along these lines.
Mhm.
And Judy asks about train tours, train groups, which I know there's so much train product like coming online. Seems like I don't know if that's something you do, Kathy. And then Lori asks about river cruise groups.
Oh, okay. Train groups. I don't do many of those, but there's some great suppliers out there. Rail Bookers, Rocky Mountaineer, which has their new name now, Armstrong, I believe it is. There are some great suppliers that will organize rail groups. I haven't personally done rail groups. I'm trying to remember if I've done one or two, and then river cruises, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I have done river cruise groups. Love them. I just did a river cruise group recently and in the spring, and it ended up being all solo ladies. Ladies. It was very small, not even big enough for me to earn a TC. But out of that cruise with eight single ladies, I have since rebooked 3 or 4 more river cruises just out of that one single ladies group of 8. So you never know. You just never know. You might think that you need a group of 50 or 60. No. In fact, the largest group I've ever done is 44. So far it's still growing, but so you just never know. Don't limit yourself. Don't be afraid to get started, even if it's a very small group.
Yeah, I think a riverboat charter is well in with all agents' reach at some point, like that. And it just seems like, I don't know what it is about that kind of travel, but it does seem like it lends itself to people building relationships on board, like pretty incredibly.
Absolutely, because you're all dining together at night. You're not going to different dining venues. You can't help but not see everybody every single day, especially at the refreshment bar and the coffee and tea bar.
Right, yeah.
You see everybody all the time. It's a wonderful way to build group relationships.
All right. So I do want to ask about group leaders a little bit, but I don't want to ignore these questions about air. So you mentioned how some suppliers work differently with air, and I know sometimes you'll be able to just sort of include it, or the supplier will be able to help you with it or take care of it. And I know other situations when you're booking groups, it sort of falls on your shoulders.
Right.
I was curious, like, could you tell us a little bit about air? Because I know air is such a headache for so many advisors.
Yes.
That and a big group with air attached seems to be almost insurmountable for somebody who maybe hasn't done groups before and is thinking about it. So I was hoping you could tell us a little bit about how you tackle air.
Yes. If I know a lot of agents wouldn't necessarily agree with this opinion, but it's how I work. If I can possibly have the air done through the supplier, I will. Okay. Because it's either me doing groups or not. To be honest, air is a beast. It's a beast. Yeah. It's terrible, especially with groups. So if I can have the air done through the supplier, I do. And I know it's not perfect. I know that there may be better ways to do it. But for me personally, that's what works. So, I mean, I have done groups where I've done it where everybody does their own air. That was a challenge. The reason is I did it once, and that was a challenge because I found out just, we were getting closer and closer and closer to the date. And have you done your air? And don't forget about your air. And you need to do your air. And I didn't like that, badgering people to get their air done. Of course, as an agent, you could offer to do their air and then charge a service fee for that. If you don't want to work with the supplier, tell them you'll do your air, give them a deadline. That doesn't always work, but so I've done it. I've done it both ways. I've done the air with the supplier. I know it's not perfect, and I know sometimes they're not perfect flights, but I've never had a horrible flight either. I mean, I've never had an awful schedule either. So for me, I like to do the air with the suppliers. It just reduces my workload tremendously. But yes, you can either have them do their own air and have it understood that they're doing their own air. You just have to stay on top of them. Or you can offer to do their air if you're willing to do that.
Yeah, I know. I just talking to so many advisors, like, I don't think I've heard someone put it a better way than air is a beast. Like, it just seems like such a thankless part of
it is.
Business. Yeah.
It is.
All right. So we only have a few minutes left, Kathy. I want to ask about group leaders, and then there's one more question I'll star this from Peggy. But so you mentioned that you might be escorting less, or might be going on with less groups, or I imagine if your volume picks up, like if you are able to add more groups throughout the year, like that makes it sometimes impossible for you to go to groups. And I know a lot of advisors who do this choose group leaders.
Mhm.
Could you talk a little bit about like choosing a group leader, and then what is the role of a group leader on a trip that you're not able to escort?
Sure. Well, I've never really gone out and just chosen someone to be a group leader. But what I have done is someone might approach me and say, I would really like to go to Scotland. And I would love to go with some other people, go as a group. So if I know that person well, and I think that they would be a great Pied Piper or a great leader, I'll just straight out ask them, would you, since I can't be everywhere all the time, would you consider going with a group and being my host, or being the host, or being the group leader? And it's happened a few times, and it's gone really, really well. I have on a few times reached out to a few different people and said, would you consider escorting a group? It didn't really pan out at the moment, but I would say most of the time someone has come to me and expressed an interest in going on a group trip. And that's how it has turned into them being a group leader.
So are there a lot of responsibilities for the group leader? Like, are they carrying a lot of burden going on this, or is it's just like simply communication?
You know what? It's not a lot. Like I said previously, I think a huge part of groups is pre-preparation to every single person going. Here's the number you use if you are in the airport and you're having an issue. Here's the phone number you call if you are on tour. Well, you've got your tour guide, but still, having everybody, not just the tour leader, but everybody is prepared. And I do get the approval from everyone, but everybody has each other's phone numbers.
Okay.
Because some people end up traveling together from that city, and then from a different city, maybe others are traveling together. So maybe not everyone is traveling together, but pre-preparation, so that even though there is a group leader, whether it's me or someone that's going instead of me, every single person knows what to do if there's an issue.
Okay. All right. All right. So last question, Kathy, and then I guess we can wrap up. Peggy, and this is something I think is a good way to close. Peggy asks, she just says, I would love to hear more about post-tour feedback and how to keep bonds with clients to get more business.
Okay. I have a husband who is a great photographer. During that trip, he is constantly, I mean, it's nothing to come back with 1,000 pictures.
Yeah.
And I get pictures of everyone in different settings, and I send them something after the trip. It can be a mug from, listen, CVS. They run specials, $5. I've done several of these where I put their pictures on a mug. I send them a mug. I send them a card, a photo card with their picture on it that says Portugal 2025. They love those.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's so simple. It's so simple. We used to, now, you know, times have changed, but we used to put all the pictures on a flash drive. And I would put in the mail. Now we have Google Docs, so it's, you know, I've upped my game. But send everybody that after the fact. Yes, I'm emailing people a week, 2 weeks later. Oh, I was just thinking about our dinner in Scotland and the haggis, and I wondered if any of you would like a recipe, or just little things like this. So I feel like I do a good job of that. One more thing, it's not necessarily a post trip, but I sort of have an idea in my head of what I might run for another group trip the next year or two down the road, and I'll start talking about it and dropping hints while I'm on the trip. So, for example, when I did a Portland group, Portugal, this last spring, I got about 3 or 4 couples from that group that are now going to do Ireland in May this next year, because I started talking about Ireland when we were in Portugal. So that's kind of a post-trip tip too. But yes, I do stay in touch with people, even if it's a simple email reminding them of an experience, or I'll post a picture of somebody and I'll send it to everybody and say, remember that night that so-and-so got up and danced with the group? Just little things like that.
Yeah. And, you know, I mean, that is such a great idea, because the cruises do so well on board booking your next cruise. Like, it's a similar thought to get people thinking about their next trip as they're enjoying the trip they're on so much. So I think that's such a great way to look at it. Listen, Kathy, I want to thank you so much for your time. It was so wonderful speaking with you. Like, your passion for this really comes through.
Thank you.
I hope people were able to take a lot of your lessons you communicated away from this session.
I hope so too.
Thank you so much for your time. A couple things I wanted to mention just before we go. I see so many people asking if they can rewatch this again. Yeah, we'll get you the link via email tomorrow morning, or you can go on the YouTube again and you can watch it anytime you feel like it. And I see a couple people asking about Collette specific questions, like Lori and maybe Rashish. I'm gonna have Tom just drop Kelsey's email, if that's all right, in the chat, and Kelsey can maybe help you with it. But Kathy, any last minute thoughts? Anything else you want to wrap up here before we close this one out?
Just get started. Just do it. I'm stealing somebody else's slogan, but just do it. just get out there and try it. Try it.
All right. Well, Kathy, thank you so much. Thanks to everyone for coming out. Thanks to Kelsey and Collette. And we'll be back in December, maybe before then, but definitely December. Hope to see you then. But until then, everyone stay safe, stay healthy, and hopefully everyone has a nice Halloween next week. So I hope to see everybody soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.